So now that we know how to change the content of a web page using HTML, we're going to attempt to do that using a button. So rather than updating it as soon as the page is loaded, we're going to have a button, and then when that button is pressed, that's when we'll update the inner HTML. And that of course starts adding some genuine interactivity with our pages rather than just running some code as soon as the page is run. So try and remember this. I'm going to get rid of it now, but you're going to need to type it in a challenge that I give you in a minute. So try and have that in your mind. What I'm going to do is after the Hello World paragraph, I'm going to add in a button, which is going to have the words change text. There we go. And this is the button that we're going to press to update the text here. Obviously it doesn't do anything yet. But in order to refer to it in our JavaScript, we're going to give it an ID, just as before. So we can call this whatever we like. I'll call it my button. All right, so that's all we need on the HTML side. Here comes the first mini challenge then. Can you select the button by its ID? So just in the same way that we did in the previous video when we selected the text paragraph, can you select the button by its ID in JavaScript? Go for it. All right, hope you remembered how to do it. You should have started with document to say that we want to get something within this document, and then get element by ID. That's the key command that we need in this case. And then, of course, the ID is my button. There we go. So that's what you should have come up with. You didn't need the inner HTML because all we wanted to do was select the button, and we've done that now. So how do we then connect some JavaScript to this button? Well, we don't want to change the inner HTML of the button, but what we do want to do is add an onClick. So we do that using .onClick, and this is effectively the same as writing an onClick instruction right there as we did a couple of videos ago. But it's much cleaner because we're using internal JavaScript rather than inline. So what we're doing here now is we're setting a function that we want to happen when the button is clicked. So to set that function, we use equals, and then we want to create a function. Now, when we define a function, we always have a pair of parentheses or brackets after it. Quite often, these might have some variable names in it if we're going to pass some variables to this function. But we're not doing that in this case, so really don't worry too much about those parentheses. Really think of them as things that have to come after functions. We'll see them in a lot more detail in just the next few videos. So now we've set it equal to a function, we need to define what that function is, and to do that we use our curly brackets like that. So what this is essentially saying is when my button is clicked, do whatever code I write in here. So quick challenge number 2, can you make it so that when the button is clicked, instead of changing the text, it alerts button clicked? So when the button is clicked, it alerts button clicked. Go for it. Okay, I hope you remembered how to do that. Very simple. Just alert, and then brackets, because this is a function. And then we want to pass a string to the alert function. The string is just a collection of characters, which in this case we want to say button clicked. And then let's pop our semicolon at the end. All right, let's have a look. So now refresh, and there we go. Button is clicked. So that's our first bit of genuine interaction with our page using JavaScript. We've run some JavaScript when the button was clicked. That's all well and good, but what we really want to do when this button is clicked is change the text. So this is where you need to remember what we did in the previous video. So can you write the code that will update Hello World to Hello Rob, or hello whatever your name is, or whatever text you like. Go for it. Did you manage it? I hope so. We should have started off with document to say that we want to select something within this document, then get element by ID because we want to select an element by its ID, and then the element that we want to select is the one with the ID of text, and then we want to set the inner HTML of this element equal to whatever we like. So I'm going to change it to hello Rob, just as we had before. Finish it off with a semicolon. That's it. So that's exactly the same as the code that we had in the previous video. So let's save that and fingers crossed, it'll all work. Hurrah! Fantastic. So that's some really genuine interactivity because we're updating our web page based on the actions of our user. As a very quick aside here, I'm just going to remind you of the Chrome console, which you get by right-clicking or control-clicking and then inspect the page and then clicking console, because as you start doing more of these challenges, you'll start to get code that just doesn't do anything. Because remember, when you have an error in JavaScript, it won't show you the error on the page, it just won't do anything. So had you mistyped and typed document by mistake, then had you run it, nothing would happen on the page to tell you that you had an error, but it wouldn't work. And then here in the console is where you'll see the error. So line 21, something about document. Ah, there we go. There's the error, document. Much better. Save, refresh, click the button, all is well. So if you find yourself getting errors during the challenges, then remember to look at the console to see exactly what the error is. That will save you many miserable hours trying to figure it out yourself. In the next video then, we'll move this along and we'll see how we can change our website content in a much more advanced way than just updating some text. See you there.